I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Schmack-a-magob, it is time for the only news that matters. And to this day, few rock and roll bands can match Rush in terms of musical talent. Even in prog rock, this Canadian power trio stood out as some of the most skilled players in the business. They were known for performing lengthy, epic songs that could be challenging for your average musician. But this extraordinary skill came with its challenges when they first hit the road. In their early days as an opening act, Rush found themselves playing to huge crowds while opening for the likes of Kiss, despite having vastly different musical styles. Geddy Lee acknowledged the showmanship of Kiss, he mentioned, is beyond the lighted stage. Say what you want about Kiss, he said, but when it came to putting on a spectacular show and giving the people their money's worth, no one else was like them. However, when Rush headlined alongside these shock rockers, their music was still fairly straightforward, reminiscent of Led Zeppelin. It was during these tours that things began to change. Looking back at the band's evolution, avid fan and Ozzy Osbourne guitarist Zakk Wylde noticed how their music became progressively more complex. He said, if you listen to their early records, the guitar riffs were simple. Then their songs became more intricate. There were more moments when the band members would wonder, did we actually write this? What part of the song are we in? Despite their musical prowess on tour, Rush's superior musicianship sometimes sat poorly with the members of Aerosmith. When Rush opened for Aerosmith in the late 70s, Lee remembered they weren't treated well. They never received a sound check, and their performance volume was often reduced to mask their skills. But Rush's days as an opening act didn't last long. With the release of albums like Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures, they began performing in massive venues, and their progressive rock masterpieces found their way onto the radio with songs such as Tom Sawyer becoming rock classics. Let me stop for a second and say, weren't they headlining starting at 2112, Farewell Kings, and Hemispheres? I think they were already a headline act by that point. Well, maybe not 2112, but I'm pretty sure, Farewell King and Hemispheres. Anyway, let's continue. Rush brought a special guest to tour during their headlining days, the Joe Perry Project. Joe Perry, the former Aerosmith guitarist, had recently left the band and was performing on the lower tier circuit with Rush as the headliner. While Geddy Lee maintained a polite atmosphere by giving Perry a sound check, he also went up to Perry and he said if he liked the way he was being treated. And Perry said, oh yeah, I'm being treated great. And Lee said, good, because I wouldn't want anyone feel the way I felt when we opened for you. Later, Perry publicly apologized to Rush, expressing his gratitude for their hospitality and admitting, I hope I had the presence of mind back then to apologize. Fairness is rare in rock and roll, but Rush knew how to handle their competition with grace. All right, this ain't the first time I heard about Aerosmith treating opening acts bad. I have this Kansas documentary that's amazing. It's called Miracle Out of Nowhere. And they were talking about how Steven Tyler would mess with their amps and lower their music and stuff like that. And eventually one of the people working for Kansas threatened physical violence on Tyler, that he stopped that. But look at Rush, man. What nice guys. After Aerosmith treated him like that, they still gave him a sound check. Joe Perry, and treated him good, but also let him know, you treated me like shit. and now we're treating you good. That's Rush for you, man. Classy guys. And to me, it's just so weird how Aerosmith would treat opening acts bad and lower their stuff. It's like, man, you were 70s Aerosmith. You were badass. Even if a band was like, okay, they upstaged, they were better than Aerosmith when they opened, but Aerosmith, I'm sure of it, back in the 70s, were awesome. Yeah, they had their shows where they were drunk and messed up and gave a bad show, but the very first time I ever saw Aerosmith was at the Miami Baseball Stadium, opening for Journey, actually. And, man, were they messed up during the time. This was rocking a hard place. They didn't have Joe Perry or Brad Whitford at the time. Tom Hamilton was swigging Jack Daniels. He had a Jack Daniels bottle on top of his bass, and in between songs he'd grab it and down it. And Steven Tyler at the time looked like Fu Manchu. He had this weird mustache, long mustache. And he was blitzed, but they were great. They managed to put a really, really good show, as smashed as they were. They were amazing. So I don't know, man. I would figure, you know, back when Joe Perry was in the band with Rush opening, I bet they were fucking great. And, you know, people that would go see Aerosmith and never heard of Rush before, I don't know. I mean, they would probably be amused by their, you know, technicality, but I mean, could they get into Geddy's voice? Because I know Geddy's voice was a big problem back in the day. So big that their manager Ray Daniels wanted to get rid of Geddy before their first album. And by the way, Ray Daniels is my hero. Ray Daniels is the guy that broke up Vangina. So that guy is definitely my hero. I absolutely love him. Which goes to show not all heroes wear capes. And man, I would have loved to get a time machine and go back to see Aerosmith with Rush opening or Rush opening for Kiss. I mean, the 70s just rocked, man. There was something so pure and organic about it that I don't think music has really matched the 70s stuff. There are exceptions, but for the most part, everything was better in the 70s. TV shows, movies, music. Just, I love the fact that I grew up in the 70s. I was a little kid during the 70s. I got to experience the 70s with my TV that only had 12 channels. Well, the TV had 12 channels. There wasn't actually 12 channels on television back then, but man, it was magical, man. It was magical. Saturday morning cartoons and, you know, All in the Family. And we just lost Norman Lear, who's a genius with All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Good Times, Maude. Did a bunch of my favorite sitcoms were done by that guy, and he lived to be 101 years old. So thank you so much, Norman Lear, for my childhood in front of that 12-channel TV set. Geddy also came out recently and said that he hated when critics would call Rush pretentious. But man, you should not be upset about that, because all the critics had to eat crow when they allowed Rush into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Did anybody ever seen that footage of Jan Winter, that idiot, up there like telling the people, oh, coming in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year is Hart, this and that, and they would get little applause. Yeah, people were applauding for Hart and this and that, but when he said, and he didn't even say the name of the band, all he said was, and from Canada, and the whole place erupted, where he even was like, whoa, that's right, Jan, eat crow. Rush is a people's band, and always was a people's band, and they did not cow down. I mean, the record company was pressuring them to do Bad Company songs, and they had one last chance, and what'd they do? They went in there and did 2112, that masterpiece, and it ended up blowing up for them. It was like, all right, now you got a career, you know? And that's from them not listening to the record company, not listening to critics, but getting pissed off with them, calling them pretentious. Screw those guys. Those critics are pretentious. They're all pretentious. They all suck, and Rush rules. And at the end of the day, Rush proved them all wrong. And so did Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. Never got a favorable review from Rolling Stone or anybody in the 70s. And Rolling Stone was forced to put Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Kiss and Rush. All these bands are now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Journey's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Something that Jan Winter said when they opened the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He said, oh, you know, we're gonna wait for bands to be around for 20, 25 years, because if we don't do that, we'll be inducting bands like Journey that were popular then. Well, they ended up inducting Journey after all. Eat crow and eat shit. I hate the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I love Rush, and I love you all that are still watching. Thank you so much, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this whole thing with Rush and Aerosmith and Jan Winter and all this crap. And, you know, Norman Lear, man. Who loved Norman Lear shows like I did? Archie Bunker was a god. His facial expressions could not be beat. And please like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty. Listen to Black Sabbath and smack 'em a gob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.